Before the beat drops. Before the chorus hits. There's always something deeper hiding underneath. This channel isn't about music at face value. It's about the psychology behind it, the emotions, the fears, the illusions artists package into sound. Here, we don't just listen to songs. We dissect them. Frame by frame. Emotion by emotion. No sugarcoating. No surface-level praise. Just the raw meaning behind the music you thought you understood. If you're ready to hear songs differently, let's begin. This song doesn't begin with love. It begins with fear. Not fear of losing a relationship, but fear of collapsing without it. "Don't Let Me Down" presents itself as a plea, but psychologically, it's closer to an emotional emergency call. The narrator isn't asking for affection. She's asking for stability, for someone else to hold together what she feels she can't sustain alone. That framing changes everything. Because when your emotional survival depends on another person's consistency, the relationship stops being mutual and becomes structural. One person stabilizes. The other relies. And reliance, when it becomes absolute, breeds anxiety. The central emotional force driving this song is abandonment anticipation, the constant expectation that the person you depend on will eventually fail you. Not necessarily through betrayal, but through absence, inconsistency, or emotional withdrawal. This expectation creates hyper-vigilance. The narrator is not relaxed in the relationship. She's alert. Monitoring. Watching for signs of collapse. That tension runs underneath the production's explosive drops. The music mirrors emotional spikes rather than emotional security. The plea embedded in the song is not subtle. It's urgent. Almost preemptive. As if she's asking not because she's already been let down, but because she believes it's inevitable. That belief often comes from prior emotional experiences. People who fear abandonment usually aren't reacting to the present moment, they're reacting to historical emotional injuries that were never fully processed. So the current partner inherits the burden of proving they won't repeat someone else's damage. That's an unfair position, but a common one. The song constructs the partner as a stabilizing force, someone capable of keeping the narrator grounded, focused, emotionally intact. This elevates the partner into a role larger than romantic companionship. They become a psychological anchor. But anchors create dependency by design. When you tether your emotional state to another person's reliability, your peace becomes conditional. If they're present, you're steady. If they're distant, you unravel. That volatility is what the song captures so effectively. The production amplifies this dynamic through contrast. Soft vulnerability builds into aggressive drops, mimicking emotional escalation. Calm turns into desperation quickly. Just like anxiety spirals in real relationships. There's also an imbalance in emotional labor implied here. The narrator asks for reassurance, consistency, emotional maintenance, but we never hear what she offers in return. That absence is telling. Because relationships framed around fear of abandonment often become one-sided emotional ecosystems. One person constantly seeks proof of stability. The other becomes exhausted trying to provide it. Eventually, reassurance stops feeling like love, and starts feeling like obligation. The song doesn't reach that point narratively, but it gestures toward it psychologically. You can sense how heavy the expectation is. How much pressure sits on the partner's shoulders to not fail. And failure doesn't even require betrayal. All it takes is distance. A missed call. Emotional fatigue. Human limitation. When someone is tasked with not letting you down, they're being asked to outperform normal human inconsistency. And that's unsustainable. The emotional core of this song isn't romance, it's fear regulation. The narrator uses the relationship as a way to manage internal instability. The partner becomes both comfort and shield. But shields don't fix the vulnerability underneath. The visuals tied to the song reinforce this emotional volatility: fire, chaos, heightened stakes, urgency. Everything feels combustible. There's no grounded intimacy. Only high-intensity emotional weather. That reflects the psychological environment of abandonment anxiety, always bracing for impact, even in moments of calm. The narrator's plea carries an implicit confession: I don't trust my own ability to stay okay if you disappear. That admission is powerful, but also dangerous. Because when emotional regulation is outsourced entirely, self-stability atrophies. You stop developing internal coping systems. You rely on proximity instead. And proximity is never guaranteed. The song's explosive chorus moments feel like emotional breakdown points, the places where fear breaches containment. It's not anger. It's desperation breaking through composure. The narrator isn't accusing the partner of wrongdoing. She's begging them not to create the emotional freefall she anticipates. This makes the song deeply relatable, because many people have experienced loving someone who feels like their last emotional safety net. But relatability doesn't equal health. The relationship dynamic portrayed here is precarious. It can feel intensely intimate, but it's built on imbalance. One person fears falling. The other is tasked with preventing it. Eventually, gravity wins. The song never resolves this tension. There's no moment where the narrator claims independence or emotional grounding. The plea remains open-ended, unresolved, ongoing. That lack of resolution is honest. Because abandonment anxiety isn't solved through reassurance alone. It requires internal reconstruction, learning how to remain emotionally intact even when others falter. Without that, every relationship feels like a cliff edge. And every partner feels like the railing keeping you from falling. The deeper tragedy embedded in "Don't Let Me Down" is that the narrator's fear may actually accelerate the outcome she dreads. When someone is placed under constant emotional pressure, they may withdraw, not out of malice, but exhaustion. Fear of abandonment can unintentionally create abandonment conditions. That's the psychological paradox the song never states outright, but lives inside of. The final takeaway is stark but honest. When you ask someone not to let you down, what you're really revealing is how far you feel from holding yourself up. And until that distance closes, every relationship will feel like borrowed stability. If this song sounded different to you after this breakdown, that's the point. Music doesn't just entertain. It reveals. Sometimes it says things we feel but don't know how to articulate. And sometimes, it hides truths in plain sight. If you see music as more than sound, if you hear the psychology behind the production, the emotion behind the performance, then you're in the right place. Subscribe if you want more dissections like this, where we don't just listen to songs, we decode them. Until the next track. Listen carefully.